Okay, Mrs. Rizzo, you might be able to get that link. Can you?
Refreshing my email. It didn't come in yet.
Well, is it, can you see it in the top left-hand corner? It should say live on YouTube.
I can see it on the Mac, not on the Chromebook.
Use stream a copy streaming link. Here we go.
Okay, well, there's the link. All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm now gonna turn that off again. All right, we're gonna get started. We are now streaming live on YouTube, just in case anyone does text you that they cannot get on. So Mrs. Rizzo is sending out a parent link via text. So ask your friends or family just to wait for that text and they should be able to receive it, or you can share the link on YouTube.
Okay, just
hello to everybody in cyber world.
I sent it via email. Now I'm going to send it via text too, just to get it out both ways.
And I am also going to start our recording. We'll record it tonight just so that we have it to be able to post on our website. All right. So welcome back, everybody. It's been a long time since we've had an orientation, and so we have a lot of things to cover tonight. We'd like to try our best to close out the orientation by around 7 o'clock, and then right after that, we will have a short presentation from Mrs. Rogers, our library media specialist, about some free online texts that you can access for your children to get them, to make sure that they're continuing to read. It's a great opportunity, so we wanted to give her a good audience for some of that. All right, so without further ado, okay, I'm not sure why part of my slide, oh, I had an image of a wigwam that didn't show up for some reason. But we're going to start tonight, as we start every night, with an important land acknowledgement, because of course, before this land was called Edgewood School and New Haven and Connecticut, it was really lived in and occupied by the Quinnipiac, Paugussett, and Wappinger tribes. And I wanted to, each meeting that we have, I want to go over just different aspects, different things that we learn. If anyone has great quotes or information or accurate things that they'd like to be shared about any of these groups, please feel free to email me. I'd love to be able to share them at future meetings. So the first is just, I thought this was interesting about the Quinnipiac family. They titled it the nuclear family. And first and foremost, they lived in wigwams or longhouses that were structures about 8 feet wide and 16 feet long. And those were the places that they lived in for much of the year. Sometimes their households were multi-generational. This, I felt, was an interesting tidbit to share, that since divorce in the groups was easy, women actually were common to leave abusive husbands or abusive households. So I thought that was an interesting bit of knowledge to pass on. Children, of course, were encouraged to be independent and to assist their elders. Some great concepts that we want to continue. And the sachems, or the tribal leaders, were shared both, and many times were women, and they were also men. So I like to highlight some of these different things about the different tribes to spread information, to spread knowledge, because prior to the English takeover, and in many ways a very violent one at that, the Quinnipiac people were able to live freely and peacefully. So tonight we are going to quickly, and so I'll put this plug out there now. If your children are close by and they would like to come to your computer just for the very beginning, we have 2 slides that they might be interested in seeing. If your kids are like mine, they are a little bit anxious and nervous about returning to school or what that change is going to be like. So feel free to bring them to the computer for the next 2 slides, and we'll talk about their in-person day and really from a student's perspective. We're then going to talk and quickly go over the safety protocols. We'll go over the hybrid model, our arrival and dismissal procedures. We'll talk about ways to communicate, and we'll end with a bunch of questions actually that have come up that we used to help answer a lot of the things that were commonly asked. So first things first, here is a little graphic. I am not a graphic designer, so if you don't like the graphic, I'm sorry. I did the best that I could. And this is the only thing I could find like it. This is essentially what the in-person day will look like. So first things first, we're going to make sure that we're washing hands throughout the day. Better yet, by using soap and water, but at least with hand sanitizer if we can't get to a sink. We are going to safely distance or keep at least 6 feet apart, and that'll be all day. And we have to make sure that we are wearing our masks. So those 3 things happening. We'll be doing a lot of our learning inside the classroom, and it'll be in one classroom, it'll be in the homeroom, and all of your teachers will be coming to you, and you'll stay in that one classroom and spending some of the time doing outdoor learning. And so basically this is like a big cycle of what your day will look like. Now, just to kind of break it down for those of you that prefer lists, and this is not going to be the exact order in every classroom, so please understand that. But essentially, we will have arrival, and instead this year of doing a fist pump with me at the entrance, you will get a fistful of hand sanitizer. So you will, all of the children who are coming in to the building, we will greet them with hand sanitizer. They'll rub their hands together as they walk to class. There will be staff in the building helping guide them to make sure that they get to the correct room. Once they get into the room, their teachers will talk to them about the hand washing procedures, and that'll be the first thing that they do. Even though they just used hand sanitizer, we actually want them to get into the habit of washing hands when they first come into the building. So they'll start off in their homeroom with learning. At some point during the day, a couple times during the day, they will take a mask break. We'll go into more detail about that, but it's where you'll be able to take off your masks for a period of time, about 5 minutes, so that you can breathe some fresh air if you're outside. And during lunch, most classes will be rotating through the cafeteria or staying in the classroom. So it'll be a balance for some of you. Some classes get to eat lunch in the cafeteria every day. Other classes will be eating in their own classrooms, and we'll go over those specifics. Everybody, as long as the weather cooperates, we'll have outdoor recess. You'll have essentials or specials in your homeroom, so your essentials teachers will come to you. And those of you who have gym and dance, there will be opportunities for those classes to actually go outside. We have areas designated for those classes. And of course, the learning will take place both in class and outside. And then it's dismissal. So the lunchtime, what it's going to look like is very different than what it usually does. And so there's only going to be 2 students at each table, and we're going to have what's called sneeze guards. They're not so that you sneeze on them. So because just in case you sneeze, you want to do it inside your elbow crease. And so we're going to have those, basically these plastic walls in place while you're eating your lunches. And when the weather gets a little bit better, we will also have tents, and we'll use a courtyard cafe right outside of the cafeteria where you will be able to, some of you, eat lunch outside. So that'll be a great opportunity. And again, recess will be outdoors. We cannot have any physical contact. That's important. So we can't play basketball or football or tag and things like that. And masks do need to be worn. I know that sounds miserable in some ways, but we are committed to making the best of it. And we went over a lot of different options with the teachers today, and we came up with a lot of creative ideas. And if you, as a student, have some creative ideas and ways that we can stay socially distanced, but have fun outside, we ask that you share them with your teacher, and they could become the new Foursquare or something along those lines. All right, so that's the last piece. So all you students out there, feel free to carry on with the rest of your night. We're gonna keep going with all the rest of the boring adult stuff. And so we're gonna keep going. All right, so here we go. Safety protocols. I'm gonna go quickly over this because these are the things that we've been living with for the last 8 months. Of course, wearing masks, but everyone coming into the building are required to wear masks. That's from the bus all the way till you get off the bus. The student belongings will be kept separate. We won't be sharing materials. We'll be kept socially distant. I already went over the hand washing. Of course, that'll be every time students enter or re-enter the building after meals, bathroom breaks, things like that. Cohorting, we'll go into more detail about this, but the students will remain in mixed groupings or heterogeneous groupings within their classroom and work with a limited number of staff. And so we'll go over what that means. Essentially, with the essentials teachers, we have decreased their number of classes so that they see the same classes more often. And that's why those classes change every quarter. And that's so that we limit the groups. We are not permitted to allow visitors inside the building. And so our new, oh, we're not there yet. Okay. Our sanitizing procedures, every night, the high contact areas are sanitized. So that includes like the regular cleaning of bathrooms and of course those high contact areas. Sorry, I'm just getting texts at the same time. I want to make sure everybody is able to log in. Okay, very good. And welcome those of you on the YouTube live stream. It looks like your chat is working. So if you have questions, Mr. Cuspa is on there who will be able to relay those questions to us during the live portion of this orientation. Okay, so the water fountains are turned off. They are covered. We need to make sure that students, all students do bring a water bottle throughout the day. I would say at least 20 ounces. They will be able to fill them up from the sinks in the classrooms, but we do recommend them bringing water bottles. And of course, the students will be trained on these protocols and shown the signs posted around the building. All right, so if your child is coming in after absences, we do need them to be screened by our nurse. And essentially, they'll be prompted to go to the nurse's entrance exit outside. The nurse will screen each child essentially using a thermometer. If they don't pass the screening, they will need to be picked up. And so that's a really important item to understand. We do have a private room. Some places are calling them isolation rooms. There's other words for it, but essentially it's a separate room for anyone who does have COVID symptoms. That is a room where they're going to wait there. They will be supervised by an adult. Who will be on the outside of the room, looking at them through a window. The inside of the room, I wish I had some pictures, but it's actually getting painted right now. So we are going to be decorating it so it looks like there are windows looking outside so that the students don't feel so isolated, but that will be the safest place for them because a HEPA filter will be in there as well. This entire slideshow will be posted online. It actually already is. And so we'll make sure that the link is readily available for everyone in the LEAF. So that if you want to click on the reopening plan that takes you to the district site, gives you a lot more details even than I'm going over. So with the reporting of COVID cases, anytime that we have a confirmed case certainly, and even in cases where it's not yet confirmed, we will share that information with the health department. There's a form that I fill out and I send it to them, and they are the ones that review every case, and then they contact all people who are potential contacts. So what that means is if someone came into contact and could potentially have been in contact with someone who has the virus, then the health department will reach out to those people and to those families. And what that means in terms of classrooms is I will then get guidance from the health department of what we end up communicating to families. So families will then be informed if there is a positive case within the building. So I do want to make sure that families do understand we will report those. And I will go based on what the health department tells me. And so they usually wait to make sure and they can confirm that it is in fact a positive case before we inform the rest of the school community. But we do want to make sure that we do that. We won't be sharing any identifying information. We will follow all laws as far as that goes. Okay. So all of our parent guardian meetings will continue virtually. Again, there will be no visitors allowed in the school building. And these are some different ways that if you have transportation concerns, that's the number for the transportation department. So in particular, with any sort of busing concerns, that's the number to call. Main office questions, of course, we have the wonderful Ms. Henderson. So you can email her or call during the day. We ask that you try to avoid calling during arrival and dismissal times, though. That's when it's most busy. Of course, any classroom curricular concerns would go directly to the teachers, many of whom are on here right now. So I want to say a special shout out to our amazing Edgewood staff. It is really humbling the amount of work that the staff for our school are doing. And it really goes, it's worth mentioning and giving them compliments because it's a very stressful time for everyone, but they have been able to manage juggling their personal lives and their family lives while at the same time still being amazing professionals and the amazing teachers that we have. And I've heard story after story from the staff, from the teachers about how their relationships with students in many ways have grown even stronger in this virtual setting, which is a true testament to embracing something that is challenging and different and making the best out of it. So thank you to all of the staff who are on the call for all of your hard work. Would like to mention we have our new parent liaison is in place and her name is Adrienne Esdale. She is fantastic. So if you have questions or concerns that you would like to bring to her attention, there's her email and phone. Any specific special education, IEP, PBT questions can go to Diane Stewart. And all of these names and contact information are also on our website, but I just wanted to go over these things because instead of visiting the school, concerns really should be brought directly to each of these staff members' attention. And of course, ELL, go to Ann Beardsley. And then of course, there's myself and Mrs. Rizzo for any other concerns not in those categories. All right, so bus safety protocols, we've really gone over these before, but we wanna make sure that face coverings are on before the child enters the bus. That's number one. They stay on during the entire trip. That's really important. And essentially, bus riders just need to follow the directions of the bus driver. And so there is going to be a system of how the children enter the bus and where they sit and how they fill up the seats. So just listen to the driver for all of that information. The buses do get sanitized between the major trips and the days. And so that's just important information to know. Okay, so these are our standard practice for the district. Of course, we will keep our 5 blocks of instruction. If you notice, it will be 4 days per week. That's for the K-3. For students in grades 4 and 5, Group A or Cohort A will come into the building Monday and Tuesday, and Cohort B will come into the building Thursday, Friday. All the other 3 days for those cohorts will be remote. Wednesdays, and this is what Ms. Rizzo and I were commenting, if any of you saw the funny meme out there with the woman who describes the most complicated, crazy hybrid schedule, we understand that there are a lot of complicated parts. So the Wednesdays sort of reminds me of that. I will do my best to explain it and keep it short and sweet. So the buildings will be closed. So Wednesdays, nobody will be entering the building, and that's so that custodians can do a deep cleansing and make sure that the entire building does get sanitized. What this means for our students is that they will log in for homeroom, which will be a really important time for attendance in particular, and some SEL work. And so basically that time is going to look like 8:35 to about 9:20. And then after 9:20, for the rest of the day, they will have independent work. They will have assignments that they work on by themselves and need to complete. And that will be work posted on their Google Classroom. And after 9:20, there will be no additional live instruction at that point. Now, of course, there is always an exception because TAG happens to fall on a Wednesday for Edgewood. Our TAG students will continue their work with Ms. Conti on Wednesdays during their normal time. That's important to know. Ms. Rizzo, how did I do for the Wednesday?
Yes, it's good. Good.
Okay, so of course our remote learners will continue their work by homeroom and content teacher. They're going to continue, basically cameras will be on all day and they'll be a part of that instruction both in small group and in full class live instruction. We'll go into a little bit more detail about that shortly. And of course, we will continue collaborating general ed teachers and our special education teachers and ELL. Okay, so for those of you who have remote learners at home or for students in grades 4 through 8 who will continue to have remote learning time, we really do ask that cameras are on, and so that is not a district mandate because of course there are always reasons, there are always exceptions of why that would not be appropriate. And so we can certainly make accommodations, and so please do request those if that is your wish and if that helps with technology and things like that. But having the cameras on is always preferred. So we do expect that students are actively participating in the lesson. So teachers may call on the students, and even if their camera's not on, we do expect that they're going to respond, that they'll unmute for that moment and they'll respond. Or if a question is posed and the teacher allows the chat, that the child can answer in there. So we do want to make sure that everyone is able to and is expected that they will respond. The other big thing is please take care of your computers. That's both your own personal computers and the district loaned computers, because we're getting a lot of computers back that have been basically destroyed. And so these are taxpayer dollars and these are taxpayer computers. We want to make sure that we're able to use them in the future. And so eating and drinking over them is not a good idea. We want to make sure that if you have not bought insurance on a device that you've borrowed from the district, we recommend you to do so. We'll put that link in the leaf so that everybody has access to that. All right, hybrid learning. So this is just more of the same, but this is just a different way to look at it. So again, K through 3 will be coming in the building Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So all 4 days for all of the students who are selecting in-person learning. On Wednesdays, they'll stay home and there will not be additional instruction, as we said, additional instructions after that homeroom time. We may want to take some of the questions now because I think there are a lot of questions about remote. So we'll pause in just a couple slides and do that. So for 4th and 5th grade, this is where it does get complicated with the cohorting. So the cohort A again will come in, and it's for the most part last names A through K. They'll come in Monday and Tuesday. They'll be remote Wednesday through Friday. Cohort B, last names L through Z, will be remote Monday through Wednesday, and they'll come into school Thursday and Friday. Now, what's important to remember for 4th and 5th grades, and for any students who are remote, is that they're getting the same instruction that everybody else is getting, that the in-person learners are getting. Everybody's getting that same live instruction. Some kids are getting it through their computers, and some are getting it live face-to-face. But we want to make sure that everybody understands that, so even for, let's say, cohort B in 4th or 5th grade, Mondays, they'll be learning the same content that the cohort A, who is in person, is learning. They will be connected at the same time. It'll be live. Okay, some questions about when the classrooms exceed capacity. So we have two options basically. We have overflow classrooms where some of the class goes to a different room and we have a staff member there to supervise. And then there's a change of location. So a couple examples where we moved an entire class to a larger room so that we could accommodate everybody who was coming in. And so we will be communicating if there are any changes to this, but right now we only have one overflow classroom, and that is Ms. Boynton's room. So we do expect that there will be an overflow room where Ms. Campbell Hudson will be leading the charge there. She will be teaching the children there. That room is set up. It looks great. We'll be sharing pictures on our Instagram over the next couple of days. In those rooms, the children will still receive the live instruction from the classroom teacher. They will just be in a different room. And we will balance and make sure that the students that cycle through will be the entire class at different times. And so what I mean by that is we'll spend usually a certain number of days back to back where the same students will be in that satellite room, and then they will go back into their main room. And we're going to balance that so every child has the same time in the satellite room so that it is equal. For the change of location, we only have 3 classes where this was the case. So Mr. Northcutt kindly moved down to the library where he made a really amazing classroom down there. So we took out furniture and he brought his furniture down there and it looked great. Grade 1 has moved into the gym, and same thing, the gym has been transformed from an active play space to now an amazing grade 1 classroom. And so all of 1st grade will be in there. The teachers will be co-teaching, but in particular, to make sure that this is known, the teachers will not be mixing and circulating themselves in the opposite classroom. And so they will stay and work with their own students so that we are respecting the cohort model. It's just that they're doing this in a much larger setting so that they can have everyone there and teach live. Okay. Ms. Rizzo, is now a good time? Are there questions that we need to go back to, or?
The only thing that's coming up that I don't know, I'm kind of paying more attention to the chat. So if you answered it, I might have missed it. But I think parents that are attending, some of them are looking for more detailed explanations of what the remote learners will be doing while the hybrid instruction is taking place. Will it look a lot different from what we're currently doing? Some asked, during recess, what are the kids going to do at recess when the rest of the class is outside?
Okay, so this will be, I'll try to keep the answers very specific to the remote learners. And again, the cameras will essentially be on. So when the in-person class is not there, the child who is at home or who is working remote will essentially be allowed to do the same thing, but within their setting. So in other words, if the class goes out for recess, then the students who are working remotely will have that break time that they can, within the confines of where they are, they can play, they can, be active and basically take a break, things like that, have a snack. So the remote learners, their day will look very similar to what their day is now. The only difference is for the first few days of in-person, the teachers are going to be assigning independent assignments. And that's to give a chance to basically teach all of the students who are coming into the building all of the protocols and the procedures of how they're going to be navigating through the building. So we're going to talk about the which bathrooms they're allowed to use and where they walk in the halls and things like that. And they need that time in person with them, and it won't be relevant to the remote learners, so they will have independent work during those times. But the teachers will communicate how long that process will be. The district has said that it can be up to 2 weeks. We don't expect it's going to be anywhere near that long. We're anticipating it'll just be the first few days of the reopening. But like I said, the remote learners their schedule and their time and their work, it'll look very similar to what things are like now. Okay, so for supplies for in-person learners, of course, again, we need to make sure that a fabric face mask is worn every day. We do have face masks for anyone who doesn't have one, but we do want to make sure that they are arriving with a clean face mask every day. Daily water bottles, of course, will be a big part since we don't have water fountains. We want to make sure that they're dressed appropriately for the weather. So everything from appropriate shoe attire to SPF when that sun does come out, and comfortable clothing to be able to wear outside, because we are going to be, like I said, spending a good amount of time outside. For anyone who is in need of appropriate outdoor clothing, we have a very large shipment of winter coats, brand new winter coats, hats, gloves, things like that, that we will be more than happy to pass on. And so please, if that applies to your children, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach out to myself, to Ms. Rizzo, Ms. Phoebus, our social worker, to your child's teacher, whoever you're most comfortable reaching out to. We will make sure that your child gets and receives the gift of these great brand new coats, and make sure that they get the right size and all of that. Also, individual classroom supplies. We do recommend that your child does bring in what they will need for their class. Teachers will communicate that. In many cases, we have provided the supplies that they need. And so the teachers will communicate anything in addition to that. Last but not least, as far as the supplies go, since we could close down, or classrooms could close down and work remotely at any point, we do recommend that if your child has a school-issued Chromebook, that they should bring it into school every day, fully charged, so that they could continue to use that in school. Now, that does not mean they're going to be on their Chromebooks all day long as if they were virtual. But it does mean that some assignments will continue on the Chromebooks because that's where they are being assigned. And so a good example is if a fifth grader is working on an essay and typing out a long project, we want them to be able to do it in one place and continue working on it when they go home. And if for some reason their classroom is shut down, they can continue working on it and learning. All right, here we go with arrival procedures. Ms. Rizzo, do you want to pinch hit this one, or should I keep going?
No, I could jump in.
I'll put the whole slide up and you can address them.
Okay. So student arrival will happen daily between 8:20 and 8:35. That's their window for arrival time. During that time, as Dr. Prone indicated, all students who enter the building will have to obtain a pump of hand sanitizer to sanitize their hands. I'm going to pull up the specific slide that I have that just has a little bit more detail. When students enter, we're not going to allow any students to utilize the bathrooms. They're going to report right to their assigned homerooms. Teachers are going to be receiving the students outside at the doors, greeting the students, and then ensuring that when the students enter the classrooms, they are following the designated transition arrows. Within our hallways, we have our hallways clearly marked. There's electrical tape that goes down the middle of each hallway to designate the way of passage. When students enter in the classrooms, there's also directionality arrows that show how to navigate from the classroom door to their desks. Parents during arrival will not be permitted to come into the building. However, we will have points of contact with staff outside. So if parents have any questions or concerns, they can address those with the staff who are stationed to enter outside. All students upon entry will enter wearing a mask and through the designated door. So when you do come in, you'll see enter here. There'll be a green marker. All students will use that door with the designation. When they enter, if a student would like to take a breakfast, we do have grab and go breakfasts, and they'll be accessible by grade. We're going to have generally two locations. Last year, the location was right outside of the gym for K through 3, and then we had a location upstairs by the lockers for 4 on up. And we will not be using lockers for our bigger kids when they do return. All the lockers have been zip tied. So students will have their belongings with them throughout the duration of the day. Students are to keep their personal belongings on them. Let's see. I think I just talked about bathroom breaks, directionality, flow of traffic. The teachers will be reviewing with the students the designated areas for students to utilize within the building. When they do go up to their classroom, as you're aware, we have multiple staircases that lead up, but we will be designating specific staircases for specific cohorts to minimize any type of exposure and to keep those students in their designated areas. Any student who arrives at the school, when they come off of the bus, we're going to be doing an informal screening for symptoms. So if a student comes off the bus and they're coughing a lot and they say they don't feel well, we're not even going to have that student enter the building. Instead, I'm going to accompany the student to the exterior door where the nurse's office is. We're going to do a temperature check and do a screening of the student there. And the same protocol is in place with teachers standing outside their doors. That's another point of contact so that teachers can kind of view the students and just make any determination if a student doesn't feel well or doesn't look well when they're trying to enter the classroom. The other thing that we can't stress enough to the students returning is that we have these very strict safety protocol in place, and we have to ensure that these are followed consistently for all students who are opting for hybrid. Every student has to wear a mask throughout the course of the day unless they're on a designated mask break. If the mask comes off, a verbal prompt will be given. If the child complies, which we hope they do, then no further action will be taken. But if after a prompt is given, the child refuses to comply, the child will not be permitted to enter the classroom. They will have to have a parent pickup. We'll be contacting the parent. We just can't take any chances. We need all students to be masked throughout the course of the day to minimize exposure. Same thing with social distancing protocol and the mask protocol. So I think I tried to hit everything. Do you want me to highlight anything else about arrival?
No, I see what you mean. You get in the weeds with answering the questions that are different. So I didn't hear or listen as carefully.
That's okay.
There was, I think, a couple
I got to go back now. Okay, let's see.
questions to highlight that may be worth mentioning to everyone. So since we're talking about arrival, I'll mention the breakfast question. So for all meals happening inside the classrooms, students will be in their classes. They will have masks off while they're eating. The teachers, of course, will make sure that everyone stays at their seats and stays socially distanced. as best as I can explain, at least as far as breakfast goes, well, let me back up for a second. What we are going to try to initiate with food services, and we don't have 100% confirmation on this, but we are hoping to be able to give out breakfasts at dismissal the day before for any child who will need breakfast for that next day. And so that will encourage students to take those breakfasts home, put them in the refrigerator, and have a breakfast that they can eat at home before they come to school. So if we give out those breakfasts, then our hope is that it'll decrease the number of students who will be eating in the classroom and therefore having their masks off. But of course, that will be available to any child who wants breakfast, and they will, again, be in the classrooms at their seats with appropriate distancing. Lunches, again, some of them will be in the classroom. And when that happens, what we're planning on doing is playing some sort of a movie or documentary or something where the students will be less likely to be talking. And that prevents the air particles, of course, from coming out, and therefore they'll just be focusing on eating. Grade 6-8 families, no change to their schedule will happen until the start of the next marking period, which is just in a couple weeks. But and at that point, we will communicate what those changes will be. But just to let you know, part of it will be an earlier start time for their cameras for homeroom at 8:35. But that won't happen until the next marking period, and your teachers will share that. All right, dismissal procedures. Would you like to do that as well?
I can. So let me I'm going to pull up my dismissal slide and go through that. So, and we are still fine tuning all of these. We have come up with plans. We've thought that those are going to be the final plans, and then we get information to say, okay, we're going to make a few changes. Okay, here's dismissal protocol. Okay. So what will happen, essentially, we want to get the best idea. I'm going to start out with this. We want to get the best idea of how many of our families plan to have their students picked up or plan to have their students walk home. We have students who are designated in Power School due to their home residence as being walkers, but we do anticipate that many of our bus students, those families may opt for pickup instead. And what we're asking is that parents provide in writing to their teachers this week what the plan for pickup will be Monday through Friday. And if you're a cohort A student, it's just Monday, Tuesday. But we want those plans to remain as consistent as possible because we are allocating staff to those specific locations based upon the numbers of students that we are having. What we will do is we'll begin around 2:30 or so making announcements for pickup. What we'll do for kindergarten is all of the pickup for kindergarten will happen on the exterior door where the playground is at those specific rooms. And I'm meeting with the kindergarten team tomorrow to finalize that protocol, and they're going to be communicating the specifics to their families. But that will just happen. Parents will not enter those classrooms, but they will go out 6 foot spaced on the playground in that area and receive just kindergarten students. For first through third, what we'll do is we'll begin with those students first, and we will have the pickup students proceed down the main hallway, down the stairs where the library is, and out the hallway where the nurse's exit is over there. Mr. Cuspa and I, and likely another staff member, will be outside with laptops. And what we have set up for this year that's different from years past is we're going to have a QR code, and the QR code allows families who bring their cell phones with them to quickly scan the code if you have the QR reader app. Scan the code, it brings up a very short form. On that form, you need to indicate your name, the child's grade. And as soon as that form is submitted, all of the first, second, third, fourth and fifth grade teachers will have that form populating live on their end. And so they'll be able to see which families are here for pickup, and they will stagger the release of those students as the families arrive. And we'll have staff members facilitating the pickup outside so that as soon as it goes into the computer, the child comes down, we see the parent, we unite the child with the parent, and we mark that child as picked up. Again, I'm going to be honest, we don't necessarily know how many students this is going to be, so I do anticipate the first week or so, it's probably going to take a little bit longer than we hope. We just ask for your patience as we work that through. After we finish 1 through 3, we'll go on to 4th and 5th grade. And Nick, did you mention about pickups for 4th? Or walkers for 4th? Did you mention anything about that?
No, and I actually need to update that in our, yes.
Am I able to say that with, is it definite?
Yep. So, and I just wanted to point out the QR code that's in the image on the slide, by the way, is a generic code that just takes you to Wikipedia, by the way. So that's not the code.
In that one.
We will have the correct code on signs posted. But that's, on a daily basis. So yes, we do have great news for those families of 4th graders who would prefer that their child is able to walk home independently, because we are now lowering the age of students being able to sign themselves out. And so with your permission, it needs to be in writing via an email to your child's teacher, so that we can have that on record. That students in 4th grade can sign themselves out as a pickup or walker, and they can then walk home independently.
Mm-hmm. So we'll allow 4th and 5th grade walkers to then sign themselves out once we have concluded the pickup for the rest of the grade levels. Hopefully all of that is finished by 2:45 at the latest, and then we'll begin calling buses. Students will remain in their rooms. In years past, all of the bus students congregated either in the caf or in the gym, but all bus students will remain in their rooms now. We'll go on the loudspeaker. We'll say, buses 1, 2, and 3 are here in the lane. Students for 1, 2, and 3, please board your buses. Teachers will stagger those students when releasing. We'll have 3 teachers outside where they will allow students to form into their bus lines. And then those teachers will accompany their bus students to their bus. A question had come up in the chat earlier about social distancing protocols on the bus. I can't say with 100% certainty that all students will be 6 feet spaced on the buses. I hope that that is the case. But I would ask that you call for student and call transportation if you need those specifics for any particular bus. The bus lists that I have received, what I can say is that we have far fewer students on those buses now than we have before, but we have to see how that goes throughout the first week, and we will space the students as much as we can on those buses. I'm looking through the notes for dismissal. Any other questions or anything related to dismissal? Can Ford students walk younger students home? Yes. Now that they can sign themselves out with parent permission, a 4th grade student can pick up their younger siblings and walk them home. If you have to pick up a child early, how do we communicate this and fill out the form? So if it's early, like if it's, a couple minutes earlier, it's fine. You just scan the QR code. But if you need to do like a 2 o'clock pickup because there's some sort of emergency or you need to remove the student, make sure that morning you communicate to Ms. Henderson via email. And we'll make sure that we have the student ready to go for that time. If your student is being picked up by someone who is not a parent, you would have to make sure that that pickup person is indicated on PowerSchool. Any person who comes to pick up the child must be there. And so when you send in the note to your teacher about the pickup arrangements, just indicate, Mrs. Rizzo is picking my child up Monday through Friday, and just put that name on the list, and we'll check that against PowerSchool and call you with any questions. 5th graders can sign themselves out, Clara, and I think that's about it.
Okay.
We'll have those QR codes laminated and on stands outside by the library, so that you can come and scan starting around 2:20 or so.
All right. So we wanted to highlight some of the outdoor spaces that we're going to be using and that the students will have the ability to use for both learning and recess. I won't spend too much time on this, but we went through this with the staff so that they were aware as well. And so the first thing I will say before I dive into this is that we're going to be sending out a universal walking permission slip, a walking field trip permission slip. And that's going to give permission for your child to be able to participate in going on these walking trips with their class. The reason why we are really pushing for using the outdoors as often as possible is, of course, because that is going to give them fresh air. And it's the safest place because the lowest rate of transmission is happening outside. So there are very few cases on record of the virus being transmitted outside. We want to make sure that we are outside as often as possible for their safety. Plus, being outside, and especially as close as we are to a beautiful park, means that a lot of learning can go on naturally. And so I'll just kind of highlight some of these areas here. And so this is a map of the school grounds. And so you'll see, if you just kind of follow along the blue areas, each grade level grouping or each academy will have different spaces that they get to go to, and they can schedule as a team when they go out there. And so the areas up here where the green different shapes are, those are actually some very bright green outdoor tents, very large tents that will be in the alleyway of the school that will be closed for any sort of traffic, gates up and everything, cars blocking, so that students can use that both as the outdoor, the courtyard cafe for outdoor lunch and dance when there is no lunch, and as a learning space for K through 2. And the tents, of course, are there so that even if it's raining or snowing outside, the classes can be out there and still enjoying being outside. And so we divided up all of the spaces around the building so that as much outdoor learning and mask breaks could happen. And then the blacktop area will really be meant for the PE classes. Those classes will take precedence to be able to spread out and do all of their fun activities, and they will be divided as such. And work has already begun on our new awning right outside of the makerspace, the library. We're very excited about that. That's going to give a nice outdoor makerspace area for the loud or messy projects. It also will provide a cover for or during dismissal time for pickups and walkers. And eventually when we go back to parents coming in that way, they can wait under there during rainy weather. We've identified for the staff some specific spots around Edgewood Park that we feel would be great areas for outdoor learning and mask breaks and hikes and different things like that. So these are some of the areas that we will take them to. So there's an archery or bird field, there's the outdoor classroom at B, the platform or the nature platform at C, the large park or the large field across the street from the school is D. That's where a lot of recess will be going on as well for the upper grades in particular. The soccer fields we know get soggy often, so that may not be an area that we use very often, but sometimes. And then of course the amazing duck pond is an option as well. So some of the ways that we are making sure we're going to stay in communication, we'll continue to stay in communication. We try not to send too many messages. And so I know that some people feel that they get a lot of parent links, whether it's the robocalls or the texts and things like that. We try to avoid doing too many. That's why we use the Leaf. The Leaf is our method of communication to make sure that families are informed. The website is undergoing some changes. We're trying to make it more streamlined as well. So please check that out for regular updates and announcements. And if you have not yet signed on to our Instagram feed, I would encourage you to do so. We are going to be posting images of the classrooms that have been set up and that are all ready to go for the students. So your child, I'm sure, will be eager to see what they'll be walking into on Tuesday. Okay. All right, so these are really left over from a typical orientation. We've already really gone over these. If you are the parent of a kindergarten or seventh grader and you've received calls from Nurse Liz about any physicals or immunizations that need to happen, you have to make sure that if your child is coming in on Tuesday, all of that needs to be taken care of. They will not be allowed to come in until they are done. That's just an important note. And any medications, of course, please reach out to Nurse Liz. I will say this, on that note, I'm going to ask parents to help us out because we were informed just yesterday that there is a possibility that Nurse Liz will be transferred to a different school. If that shocks you or angers you or upsets you, we're in the same boat because we want to make sure that we keep Nurse Liz here at Edgewood because, number one, she knows our children. She knows them really well, and she's amazing. We do not want to lose her. So, and the other part is a safety concern, of course, that we want to make sure because she knows the children, she knows all of their medical needs as well. And so we don't want that change to happen right now when we're about to open. And I am going to ask that the parents and guardians who are on this call, if you feel strongly to keep Nurse Liz here at Edgewood, I would ask that you reach out to me. You can send me emails. I will forward those emails to the central office staff who need to know. And we will do our best to make sure that Nurse Liz continues to work here at Edgewood and helps our children out. All right. So last but not least, before we turn this over to Mrs. Rogers, these are a collection of questions that have come to us from parents along the way. And I just wanted to answer those because I think they are commonly asked questions. So here we go. So we talked about how the older students will be cohorted. We're doing it by last name, of course. So it's A through K will be cohort A, and cohort B are L through Z. Now there were some classes that we did have to make some changes because the groupings were mismatched or the numbers were not balanced. And so we did need to make some changes to that. And as far as hybrid goes, it depends on the class as far as how many will be in there, but with the cohorts, the older grades, we will have upwards to, or I should say no more than about 14 or 15, depending on the grade. So instruction for the older students, on the days their cohort is learning from home, they will be learning right along with everybody else. So those cameras will be on, the live instruction will be happening, they will be learning the same information whether they're in school or at home. This is a great question. How will teachers effectively teach both in person and online simultaneously? And I think the person who posed this was an educator. Hybrid learning is what we are hearing from other schools, teachers and districts, that is the most challenging and in many ways not a very desirable option. It's not quite as good as if we were all in person. It's not quite as good as if we were all remote, but it is a sort of happy medium. So the teachers are going to adapt to this. So please understand and please be patient with their work and their hard work and all of their planning. They're going to be trying to balance something that is a very challenging task. And so as this rolls out and as we continue, it'll get better and better, just as remote learning has gotten. Okay, so grades that have multiple teachers, will they switch classes and teachers? So the students will remain in one place. The teachers will be the ones that actually go to the different classes. And so that's an important distinction. So your child's desk will be your child's desk for the remainder of the year. And so that's the same as well for the essentials teachers, for the specialists. So again, we've limited the number of classes that they teach so that they teach the same classes more often. So that decreases their cohort size as well. I think that I just answered that one. So accommodations for meals. So as far as the cafeteria goes, again, I identified that we will have sneeze guards at the tables. There's only 2 children per large 8-person cafeteria table. So there'll be distance. So we will be seating, upwards to about 30 children in the cafeteria at any given time. And then of course, weather permitting, we'll do the courtyard cafe, where some students will be able to have their lunches outside if they wish to do so. So as far as inside the classroom, what we will do, we will encourage, of course, windows being opened and making sure that that airflow is circulating nicely. And essentially, we will play those movies and things to try to encourage children to not talk while they're eating their lunches. And as soon as somebody finishes their food, we'll ask them to kindly put their mask back on so that it's not kept off any extra. So social distancing. Now, Ms. Rizzo went over a lot of details about the walking through the halls, basically. We are staggering just about everything. We're giving people certain areas, certain stairwells, certain bathrooms, so that we don't have students crossing paths very often. So even during dismissal, which will be the busiest time, we have it designed so that we'll be doing different parts of dismissal at different times and staggering who it is we're calling. So that's an important thing to understand, because we're going to be continuing to make sure that students are socially distanced and are not using the same areas. So a good example are the 3rd grade bathrooms, or the 3rd grade landing bathrooms. Those bathrooms will just be for certain grades, and no other grades will be using those bathrooms. They will be using their own bathrooms, and so on and so forth. So I did talk about what happens, with COVID cases. So in this example, if a teacher becomes ill with COVID or is COVID positive, we would not be sharing, their personal information or anything along those lines. But of course, I will give that information to the health department. The health department then decides whether a class has to quarantine. And we will communicate that, the health department, I should say, will communicate that. And then we will inform the school community if there are or is a positive case. This is the same if it's a student. So in that event, they will tell us how many days that we will immediately go into remote learning for either that class or certain classes. And they'll tell us when we're allowed to come back in person. So the health department will communicate that. And if it's just a single staff member where there are no cases of anybody else being exposed, but they are home sick, then we will be hopefully securing a substitute who will continue to teach the class. And we have assigned leaders in the building who do not have rooms, and they will be a backup person for specific classrooms, so that if we don't get a sub, then we will hopefully have another person lined up to be able to support that classroom. All right. This is a albeit long question. I think it's a great one to ask. So where are we in terms of being able to fit everybody in the building, basically. And in particular, from a social justice standpoint, what are we asking families to do? And the best way that I can answer is my advice here. And it's, again, if you are on the fence of deciding whether or not your child is going to be in person or stay remote, this is what I would say. So if they are being successful now in remote, then they will more than likely continue. If they are not learning and you are concerned about regression of their learning and their skills, then it is going to be very important that your child do come to school. And so that's the best advice that I can give. And if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Last but not least, are we able to change our minds? And so here's the easiest answer. For anyone who is in person and wants to change their mind to go into remote, you can do that at any time. And that's a very easy change for us to make. All that we need is something in writing, and then we will just change and update your child's information in PowerSchool. And then they can stay remote and learn from there. The reverse is much more difficult. Changing from remote to become in person, we have to have time in order to make those changes. And because what it could mean is if your child is coming in, your child may finally exceed the space in that classroom, causing us to have to find another room to do a satellite room. And we need time to prepare for that. So basically what it means is we will have for the beginning of marking period 4, so the last marking period, we'll have another round of decisions for families to make. If you would like to change your mind and come into the building or do in-person learning at that point, we will accommodate it. So basically the decision right now is if you want to be in person, make sure that that's known by your child's teacher and updated on our information for this coming week. And they will be expected again to be in person until, or for the remainder of the year until unless you change your minds. But beyond that, changes, again, will be very difficult to accommodate. Okay, I think, yep, that is it. So I know that we are past our 7 o'clock time, so I apologize, Ms. Rogers. If there are any last minute questions, I am happy to take those, but I'm going to switch the call over to Ms. Rogers, who is then going to talk about these online texts that are available. And let me just make sure that, Ms. Rogers, you can, I think you can share your screen.
Yeah, I have a green option for sharing screen.
You do, okay.
Yeah, okay. Good evening, everyone. There's been a lot of information tonight, and I know you're probably tired and are done with your day. Believe me, we all are. The information I want to share with you tonight is not just like, oh, there's some free things online for you. So the City of New Haven public school librarians have worked diligently since March to put in place essentially our whole budget, buying an ebook platform for the school district. So in the ebook platform, I have pushed into it says I can't do it, Nick. Even though my screen share shows green, it says you've disabled participants to screen share. So I've pushed into many of the classes, grades 3 through 8, but the first time through was a little tricky for the young ones.
I was muted. You should be able to now. I was still sharing my screen.
Oh, okay. So it might be a little tricky for the first time through for the young ones, and I think it's an important step for the parents to see this process. It's still not letting me, Nick. So
try it again. I just changed it.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Hot diggity dog. All righty. So I will be brief, and not everything I have to talk about tonight applies, especially for the youngest grades, but let me just show you where to start. So it's the public school. Can you see it okay? I just want to make sure. Yeah, okay. So the public school library media specialists, we are kicking off our Mac and VIA. It's an ebook collection and a database collection, all in one platform for it's easy for you to use. We have curated this diverse collection of ebooks, with diversity being a very important part in this whole district. As you can see, there's a lot of books for the pre-K through 8th grade students. And there's also advanced search options for you to use if your child's a little bit older. If your child is younger, you can help them with those search options. There's also digital databases that we've been purchasing. So we have the Pebble Go, is good for pre-K through 8. Encyclopedia Britannica, grades 2 through 12. We have the dictionary. And for our older grades, the Gale Research and Context and Opposing Viewpoints. In our databases, we are also able to link in Sora, which is another ebook platform, which connects directly through to the New Haven Free Public Library. So we worked in collaboration with them, and this will allow all of our students to not only have what we've purchased with essentially our whole budget, but everything that the city of New Haven buys through the public library in their Overdrive collection. So this is a lot of books for our students and a lot of places for them to read, which we know is one of the most important things that they should be doing, no matter what they read. The logging in, we've worked with a single sign-on. So we're trying to make it really easy, and it's compatible on the tablets, the Chromebooks, and the computers. One of the things we were able to do is because we subscribe to Britannica, we have Britannica Insights. So we know students, if they're giving something to research, which we know our teachers are asking our students to do, the first thing they'll do is they'll Google it. It's just what they do. So this is what it would look like if your student was to Google a DNA strand. And as you can see, Wikipedia is the option on the right, which is one of the first clicks. We have been able to push out to every single Chromebook Britannica Insights as the top lesson. So they'll be able to click right into Britannica Insights and be able to read good quality information. We also were able to work with the IT department to put Mac and VIA right in your student's Chromebook bookmark bar. So as you can see in the upper left-hand section of my screen where it says NHPS bookmarks, that's a drop-down option, and this is where you will find Mac and VIA. For our kindergarten and first grade students who are using the iPads, we have pushed it out as an app, and you will find the app icon for Mac and VIA right on your iPad. Once they get there, they'll just need to confirm that they are an NHPS student by choosing their NHPS account, and they will be right in to the database. I've set up some really cute categories to just help them encourage a choice. Kids love to do this click a box option, but they can, of course, look for books by title, etc. So this Mac and VIA is our main New Haven Public School ebook platform. The students will have an opportunity under ebooks to personalize their searching by choosing their reading level, which we can find from our teachers. If your student doesn't know theirs, their teacher does, and they'll get better at knowing this level to be able to personalize their learning. Once they've found the books that they want, they literally just click check out the book, and the book will be in their backpack. As you could see on this screen, I've checked out the books Bronx Masquerade. So there are a lot of options when they're in this book. They can have a 1 or a 2 page spread. They can have every single book read to them out loud. They can choose how fast the book is read and at what accent they want the book read. I know I heard some rumor that if you listen to it in like the British language, you listen better. I don't really know about that, but it's always fun to listen in British. They can also select the size of the fonts. So if they want that font bigger, they can make it bigger. The brightness, they can choose the color of the font. And really, really important, they can choose the style of the font. And Open Dyslexia is one of the font styles that can be chosen for every single book. So this is really important for a lot of our learners to be able to choose that Open Dyslexia font. There's lots of options like bookmarking and note-taking, and I will go with all of that with the older students when they're in their classes, and citation. Under the databases, we have Britannica, and I'm going to start with that one. You just go to the database option, you'll see all those choices. Britannica, they can choose the level of which they learn. So elementary, middle, or high school. We also have the academic, which is for older students for deeper research, history, and we have it both levels in Spanish also, if Spanish is your language. They can sign into the Britannica and have their own account where they could take notes and make folders and all that. I'm teaching the students that myself. Don't worry about that. This is for our middle school students, and I don't think we really have a lot since we're only doing a orientation for our pre-K through 5. So I'm going to skip right over this. Webster Dictionary is always there for our students. They have some fun things like word games and word of the day. So let's make our Logio files move right along. The McInVia Pebble Go option database. We have 2 options for us, animals and biographies. There's 12 topics for animals with 200 articles and 17 topics for biographies. You'll see a nice diversity in biographies. I'm very, very pleased with this. All these articles can be read aloud. There's some fun things to do with that. And all you need to do is go into the McInVia databases. This Sora option is the only tricky one that the first time through that to be able to get to the New Haven Public Library sign out, you do require just once to do it, a double authentication. And I am going to post this on my website so that you can follow along with the steps at your own pace. But I just want you to understand that it's there so that you'll see this is what my homepage looks like. But when you first go in, it's going to ask you for your school, and you just have to say you're a New Haven City school, and it'll ask you to authenticate who you are with your Google account. And you'll say, okay, ready to start. And it's going to ask you if you want to do a shortcut, but you don't need to, because we have this not only in the McInVia, but the Sora is also in the Google Waffle app. You have to add the New Haven Public Library by just doing add a library, choose the New Haven Free Public Library. You could set up your preferences. I have my K-5 students choosing juvenile. I have my 6-8 students choosing juvenile and young adult. And then when they search the first time through, they're going to need to select the box that says search all my libraries. This is where they'll get everything from the public library as well as everything from the public schools. So we want to have that box clicked. And the double authentication comes here. You can see that when you look for a book, my search option was cats. I had one book in the public schools, and you can see other books from the public library. When you're choosing the public library for the first time, you select the book. You say, I want to borrow it. You have to say you're coming from the schools. This is where they know they don't have to ask you for a library card number or anything. You say New Haven Schools, choose your account again. Now you can borrow it, and you'll never have to do that authentication again, just one time through. And then there are some great apps that the kids have available that the teachers are using with them, like Pear Deck and Screencastify and Padlet and Gizmos. So I don't mind staying on if somebody wants me to go through those steps with them, but I think we've been a long time tonight, but it will be on my website, and I can take a few questions.
Can you hear me or no?
Yep.
We have the same question is coming up. Will students be able to check out physical library books at all this year for those who come in, or no?
I think I need a little bit of time to get the scenario down in school. I think we need to let the kids settle, but yes, I have a online form that I've already created so that I could allow kids to sign out books. I've already following the ALA, American Library Association, protocols for what to do, how to deliver the books, how to receive the books back, how to quarantine the books, etc.
Perfect. And then the authentication for the account is the kids' NHPS account, right? It's not the parents' email.
Correct. It's the students' NHPS. Anything else? All right.
Great, thanks, Ms. Rogers. That was great information too, and hopefully hopefully parents were able to, hopefully we'll be able to use that in the homes, because it is a lot of great information, especially for those students who need exposure to more texts, and now we have that available. So I think that's pretty much it as far as questions go. I'm just looking to see. Yep, I believe that's everything. So thank you to all of you who, especially those of you who stayed all the way till the end. We appreciate you. We appreciate your perseverance. And thanks, Mr. Kuspa, for handling the YouTube live questions that streamed through. Thanks, Ms. Rizzo, for all of your hard work and answering questions faster than I could even get the thought out. And Ms. Rogers, thank you for setting up all of those great resources for us to have. I also want to say a very special shout out and thank you to Ms. Tapia for the Spanish translation that she provided, and Hajer for the Arabic translation. We could not do this without you both. So thanks, everybody. Have a great night. And that's it. All right, take care.